Hello, this is Benjamin Pope of Cohort 15 from the Guildhall. This is the morning of January 25th, 2011, and in this tutorial we will be creating a shrink ray using the Unreal Development Kit 2010. So this tutorial follows previous tutorials in which we showed you how to set up a basic project and configure the properties for it. So this tutorial assumes that you've already done that. I've gone ahead and made 4 classes, the only 4 that we'll need for this, and I will be visiting them each in turn and developing the code for them. So our first class is the Shrink Arena, which is going to be our game type. It just derives from UT Deathmatch. And the first thing we need to do is override the initGame function. Parameters. And we're just going to call the parent function to get the default functionality. Alright, let me fix this real quick. I've brutalized it. Okay. Next, we need to replace the default inventory that you start with our new shrink ray. So, first we need to grab the world info game, but we need to cast that to a UT game. So the syntax is as such. We access the default inventory, item 0, and then we're going to use a class literal to reference our shrink ray, which we have not developed yet. The last thing we're going to do in this class is replace the default pawn class to our shrink pawn, which we also have not developed yet. Alright, this class is complete. Oh, no semicolon there. Sorry. Okay, let's move on to the shrink ray. The first thing we're going to do is change the weapon projectile for the secondary fire mode. That's what that one specifies. And we're going to use another class literal here to give it a shrink projectile. Next, let's change the shot cost to 5 ammunition to use this. That's not entirely necessary. Then we're going to set the attachment class to none. And then we're going to start the ammo at 50. The pickup for the ammo will also give 50. And then we'll cap it at 100. This class is also complete now. So next we will develop our projectile. I forgot to mention that we're extending the shock rifle class for our shrink ray here. Oh, it looks like I slipped up here. This is the shot cost for fire mode 2 equals 5. Sorry about that. Alright, let's make that projectile. We're just going to derive from the link plasma to get the base functionality. For the default properties, we'll just give it a speed and a max speed of 1000. And let's change its draw scale to 3, so it'll be very big. Next, we're going to override its in-air state. And really all we want to do here is override the process touch function. This will be called anytime the projectile collides with something in the environment, an actor that is, which even walls and floors are actors in Unreal. Okay, first, let's declare a local shrink pond, and we're going to try and cast the other actor as a shrink pond to see if we've hit another player with our projectile. Let's put in a little test here to see if that actor is actually equal to the instigator, or the one who fired this projectile. So if you touch your own projectile, it should not shrink you. And we'll just short circuit with a return here. If it is a valid target, oh, I forgot to declare the variable name. Just call it SP for short. So if it has a valid target, then it'll tell that pond to shrink. We have not made that function yet. Alright, this class is now complete too. All we need to do is make the pond. This is where the bulk of the code is. It extends UT-pond. First we need to declare some variables. So let's start with a bool that we need to determine whether or not we're currently shrinking. Next, we're going to need a series of float to store the starting height and scale values for the model, and also the original collision radius. This will be scale of the pond. This will be normalized between 0 and 1, so if this is 1, you should be at your starting size. And then we'll add a target scale here. This will determine whether we're shrinking or growing. We want the projectile to eventually wear off and allow the pond to grow back to full size. So we'll use that later. Next, let's define a constant for our minimum scale and set that equal to 0.4. That's arbitrary, you can change that if you like. Next, let's define a shrink rate. And again, these are just numbers I used while developing this class. You can change these if you like. Next, let's make a little variable for storing the amount of time it takes, the amount of time that you're either shrinking or remain shrunken. So this is the time that passes between when the pond is originally hit by the projectile and before it starts growing. And last, let's define a total duration, which will encapsulate the entire process, including growing back to full size. So that'll only take an additional 2 seconds.